Welcome back to my Pixinsight tutorial for Absolute Beginner series. Now in the last video we talked about debarring your frames and aligning them and integrating them. But I forgot to mention was, and this is very important of course, once you get the final result with those three frames with the high clipping, low clipping, and the file is called lights binning integration.xisf. As you recall, it was M31 that we were doing. You have to do something immediately, and I forgot to mention it. If you close this, you're going to have to reintegrate all of them, because when you use the script, it creates it and leaves it in a folder. But when you do manual debarring, star alignment, and integration, and you get those three files, then it's really important that as soon as you get rid of the high and low clipping windows, which were just previews of what was removed by Pixinsight, you have to go File, Save As immediately. Give it a name and try to keep it XISF. And the reason for that is because it has the most data inside the file instead of saving it as a TIFF, a FIT, a JPEG, or PNG. So give it a name, Save As, put it wherever you were working, the folder you were working in, and then save it. Okay, so now we can get started. Forgot to mention that. That's really important to save the file so you can bring it back right away, or you accidentally do something and you can access it back again. So in this video, we're going to cover the crop. And there's a couple of ways. There's three ways that you can crop a picture. And sometimes I'll do it one way, and then I'll do it the other, and then sometimes I'll do the third. So for simplicity, because this is for beginners, you're going to want to use this dynamic crop icon. We can even bring it here so I can highlight it so you guys can see it. So why crop an image? I mean, looks nice. We want all of it. What happened was when you were integrating the files, or aligning them I should say, and integrating them, and the telescope was either dithering, or if you're not familiar with dithering, it was actually moving the star over 6 pixels, down 6 pixels, up, north, south, east, west, and the purpose of shifting all the image over was to average out the hot pixels and some of the noise. So of course the frames can't be one on top of each other, because during the night every single frame, or every second frame, or if you chose every 3 frames, if you're doing 300 frames, the picture moved. I mean, the galaxy moved over, the stars all moved over to the right and to the left, and so these are not perfectly lined up. The frames are not, the stars are, because you use star align. So let's zoom in a bit here and slide over. Let's have a look at the frame, the edge of the frame, and I mean, let's really zoom in and see how this is all chopped up, because this is a combination of, I forget how many we used the last time, 10, 15, maybe 6, but imagine having 100. We need to get rid of this, because Pixinsight, when it auto stretches or does any type of work on the image, it takes into account this black line here on the edge. We can't have that. We do not want that. So let's resize it and grab the corner and open it up a bit, because I noticed that some people said, well, I opened up the crop, double click, and I can't see where the line is to move it, because if you do this, it's hiding at the top and the bottom. So people end up grabbing this and moving it over. Okay, that's fine, but if we zoom out, and I really mean zoom out, you'll be cropping, you'll be cropping it in the wrong area. So I'll close it. Yep. So back off a little bit so you can see the whole image. Double click your crop icon, and now there's a fine gray line going all the way across. If you grab the center, you'll move the entire crop. So try not to touch that at the very beginning. Instead, you can go to the right, and you can see there's a little Lego block pin that shows up. Grab it and pull it in. I'm going to exaggerate just for the fun of it. And you can grab the top. The little Lego block shows up. I call it a Lego block because it looks like one. And bring the side, the bottom, top, left, up, down, left, right. And or grab the corner. Now there's 2 tiny little pins that show up in the corner. And you can do this. You can go from on a 45, which is kind of neat too, right? So you do this, and we get rid of this section down here because this is bad. and take just a little small section off the outer edge so Pixinsight won't read that and read into it as it does the rest of the processing. Two choices at this point. You're happy with where you cropped it. You can hit the green check mark for execute, or grab the purple triangle, drag it, and drop it. And it won't let us do that. That's because it's being used by itself. So we're just going to hit the check mark. Give it a few seconds. Pixinsight comes out, and now we've removed. If we zoom in, go over here, zoom in some more, go over here. The black line is gone, and all those diffused pixels that were messed up from being stacked are also gone. Perfect. So that's one way of cropping the image. Let's look at another way. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go to the blue arrow on the top left, undo dynamic crop, because if I'm going to show you another way, it has to be where it was. So undo it. Takes a few seconds, and the tiny black bar on the edge here is back from off stacking, and now we're going to go with the method number 2. Now it's the very same as number 1. Let's put the icon back where it belongs. This time we're going to go to Process Explorer here on the left, and you see this dynamic crop. Same process, it's just in a different place. But I found this interesting when I found out. Hopefully it's going to work now if I show you. So on here you have to double click. On the process icon, if you go process, all process, and you go dynamic crop, then it's just a single click. But when you go to Process Explorer, you literally need to double click. So let's double click it. 1, 2, it opens up, the window goes away. Now before you touch anything, it didn't actually put that gray little square that we had earlier. It's waiting for you to click up here, dynamic mode, which I really like. So let's use the dynamic mode and click on it once. Now my cursor turns to a cross, and I'll start in the top left and I'll scroll down to the bottom right, and I'll execute it. And I've done the exact same thing. That's number 2. Let's close that. Undo. And the little bar's back, I hope. Okay. Okay. And that's closed. The third way is, again, the process icon that you created. This time it, again, puts the gray crop area that you want. But I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to reduce the size, but based on numbers. For example, let's say I had a SBIG 2000 MX, which I used to have one. It's a mono camera, and its size is 1600, enter, by 1200, enter. So for all intents and purposes, this is about as big as my chip on my SBIG would be. That's as much of the galaxy that I could get based on 1600 by 1200. And using, I believe this is, might be the C8 at f3, could be the 72mm refractor. In any event, this is obviously too small. So, but you're getting the idea. So let's double this. What's 16 and 16? 3200, 3200, enter. We're going to go 2400, enter, and, whoops, I thought I put 23, not 32, enter. And now we're getting a much better, a larger field of view. The image scale hasn't changed, but the field of view is a lot larger. And of course, you can select this and move it around to get the the galaxy in there. But to me, that's a huge waste. Remember, we started at 5,000, so maybe we can go 4,000 and enter. And I think maybe 3,000. I'm not sure if the scale is even, but it doesn't matter. So that's not bad. And again, it gets rid of a lot of the screen. But you got the galaxy, and of course, because this was such a wide field, I believe it looks like it was the C8, and how I can tell is because these stars are really elongated. They're really stretched, and it was caused by the reducer. I don't want these stretchy stars inside my nice galaxy, so I'm actually going to use 4,000 by 3,000. It's not perfectly rectangular like a chip, but that doesn't matter. And notice also that you can put this circular crosshair rifle thingy right in the center of the galaxy, so that it kind of makes it, I wouldn't say perpendicular, but so that it's centered. So we're going to execute that. I know I've taken off the edge, but the edges are horrible from the reducer. So I'm actually going to execute that. And voila, go down. Sorry, got to go slow here. Go back to the double window, which zoom to the optimal fit. Voila. And you have to close the crop tool. So it goes back up here. And now we have just the galaxy to deal with and the little guy here, M32, M31, and its little partner. Now, if you want to look at it closer, you can go with the zoom to fit, which will almost fill the whole Pixinsight window, depending on how big the image is. And there we go. That is one way of cropping. The second way of cropping, where you choose where to crop. And the third way to crop, you enter the width and the height. And you look at your image and say, yeah, I like that. That's where I want it. Or you could have went 4,000 by 3,500. Or sorry, yeah, you want it a little bit wider than high. Change the numbers here, 4,200 by 2,800. Either way, depending on your target. Really depends on your target. So let's close that. Yes. Now, remember, you just made a change. I'm going to right away, because I cropped this, I'm either going to hold save, and it'll remember that it's test_M31, or I can go save as, pardon me, go to test M31 and save, and you'll see, well, you're going to overwrite that file. Well, that's okay, because I don't think I'll go back in time and add that black line back, or those off stacked frames. This is what I want to keep. All right. So in this video, I was just going to do the crop, but I said to myself, why don't we do two processes, two modules today in this video? So, and I'm not going to get technical, but I'm going to keep it simple. Why is this picture green? Because your camera, your DSLR, or your one-shot color has two pixels that are green, a red and a blue. In other words, if we go here, it's RGGB, twice as many green. Simple. Let's leave it at that. We need to remove this green cast, and there's 100 ways to do it, but I'm going to use what I think is the simplest way. And some people will maybe watch my video and goes, you did it the wrong way. No, I did it one way, my way, but I did it the simple way, just so we can continue working with this image. And this is our first time using Pixinsight, or maybe our 10th time, and we don't seem to be getting anywhere. So let's look at automatic background extraction. Yes, normally it would be dynamic, but for now, let's just get rid of the green casts, so we can go on with the lessons and keep it simple, and at the end have a decent image, something we can show our friends. So open up automatic background extraction. Now, by default, the box size will be 5. The separation between each box would be 5. I put it 8. I put the boxes a little bigger. The danger in that is you might catch a few stars, and Pixinsight doesn't like to put boxes on stars. It usually likes to miss them, where it's just the background. It's really important that this program, this script, only goes and hits the background. And you will see that later. In the next video, I'll go a detailed DBE, and that's going to be a fairly long video. But again, I'll try to keep it simple. The other thing that actually has to happen is that the target image, M31, it has to be corrected. How? Well, we're going to correct the green because there's too many of them. There's 2. And there's only 1 red and 1 blue, but there's 2 greens. So we're going to subtract. Now, some people divide. We can try the division. You should try the division just to see what happens. Because remember, you can always go back and undo and redo it. Let's just divide and take the triangle and drop it in. Let's see what happens. It's either going to get really bad coloring or it's going to correct it and make it a more natural looking image. So notice this is background. This was what was extracted. If we go back to the screen transfer function, all we want to do is stretch that just to look and see what it is that it removed. So hit it. There's the green cast. And you can't see this on YouTube, but it's actually dark green here and lighter till it gets really there's gradients of green. Of course, there was a galaxy here, and because it was white-ish, then the green wasn't as deep. It's not important. So what do we do with this green cast? Well, it's useless. We're trying to get rid of it. Discard the file, the frame. And here's our new one. Remember, we divided. We didn't subtract. Normally, you should subtract, but we just want to see. Let's do the nuclear button and see if this galaxy is now normalized. And it is. This is what we're after. The galaxy's white. The background is grayish. Yes, there's a bit of a halo. It was a very bad night. There's a little bit of vignette maybe in the top corner because the reducer is so heavy, so severe. Had I had flats, the vignette would be gone, and I believe that this darker halo just around M31 will also be gone. So in this case, division seemed to have worked. Now we can do undo. There's a little TV screen here. I think if you click this, it undoes it, and this does it. Remember, this is another frame. See, M31 is still in the background, but this generated a new frame. If we like this frame, we will delete the background and continue with ABE. In other words, continue with the automatic background extracted picture. So I'm going to reset it. And I'm actually going to close it. In other words, get rid of it, even though that's what we wanted. But now we're going to divide, we're going to subtract. In other words, do a subtracted correction of the green. Drag your triangle, drop it in, wait a few seconds, and let's see what it generates in terms of removing the cast, which is here, background. You nuke it. There it is. The gradients are still there. Get rid of the green. Don't want that. I don't want to save that. It's useless. And I want to stretch M31. And if I look at this and I look at the one I did a minute ago, they almost look identical to me. So by far and large, use subtraction, but fool around with division if you wish. But subtraction is the way everyone goes, to me. And that's what I'm just trying to show you, that the simplicity of it. So we've extracted the green. Let's close automatic background extractor. We can leave this down here. And this is the new file. This is the old file, frame, image. So let's close the green one because it's obviously what we don't want. And it was saved. That's why it didn't ask me to save it again. But now this one, we're going to just files and always save as you're going along. Because it has ABE in front of it, it's no longer just test M31. This is still green. But now I have test M31 ABE, and I'm going to keep both in case I ever have to go back to the green one and start over from scratch. Hopefully you never have to do that. I've done it. Save it. It's going to ask you the format. It's going to be XISF. Later we can save it as a TIFF or JPEG to share it online. 32-bit. Leave everything default. Say OK. And that's done. Now, let's put this back where it belongs. That was icon number 2. Let's close this. Go. Did you notice what I did here? I double-clicked on the desktop, double-click, and it brings me to EBE. Let's open it up. There's our image again that we just finished. It's nice. We're moving along. Some people at this point, they just keep this. If you were in Deep Sky Stacker and maybe Photoshop, you would probably just denoise this and try to work on the lanes, and you're done, right? But Pixinsight has another 20 modules, 20 processes that it can use to really, really dig deep into these images depending on the value quality of your data you're acquiring. How good the night was, how dark the night was, how much integration time you had. Remember, if this was 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, this image would be totally different. It would be packed with information. So that's how you can take your image here, and with all these modules as far as you want to go, and everybody wants to go, you know, the limit. They want to go as far as they can to get the best image possible. At this point, if you save this image as a TIFF or a JPEG, let's do it. Watch what happens. I'm going to go File, Save As. This is really important. Boy, did I learn my lesson the first time I did this. I'm going to save it as a TIFF because I want to put it on Flickr. There we go. It's renamed. Save it. It's going to bring up an option box. You cannot save it as 32-bit IEEE. You cannot save it as 32-bit unassigned because Photoshop will not open it. It'll buck for some reason or other, and he says your image depth is just too deep. We cannot work at that level. Photoshop CS6 I think can open 32-bit, but maybe not from Pixinsight. So always, 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 always use 16-bit unassigned. And then here I'll put @ which is not the real code, but my name. In other words, my little Logi logo. And of course, M31, and I might go underscore T3IA because it was modified. Another underscore AT72ED. That's the telescope, I'm assuming. It could have been the C8, but this is just for show and tell. So I'm going to go OK, 16-bit. Put your copyright name in there and describe a little bit of the image. Save it. And now we're going to close this. Remember, this is already saved. This is the XISF. So I'm going to close it, and we're going to talk before we close. So test M31 automatically background extracted. TIFF went from 140 meg to 70 meg. Half the information in a way has been lost. So you open that up and you go, whoa, 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 whoa. What happened to my picture? Why is it so black? I could see everything a minute ago. Okay, let's go to the folder then. I believe I'm on C temp. And I'll go to test M31, and my picture viewer is IrfanView, which is the greatest little picture viewer on the planet. It has like 100 different extensions it can open. Let me double click that, or right click open. I just want to open it. I don't want to open it in Pixinsight. I want to open it in IrfanView, and I'll hit F to fill, and that's what you would end up getting. This is your picture. You put that online, people go, "Oh, what happened here?" Because it's linear, not stretched. In Pixinsight, this image that we worked on a minute ago, we had forced a stretch, I don't use the word fake, but a virtual stretch. In other words, the possibilities of what M31 would become, but it wasn't stretched. It was unstretched, and you can see it here. If you save this, you get nothing. Now I can stretch this now by dragging the screen transfer function. That should bring. It should stretch it. If not, it was saved unstretched, and it cannot be stretched again. Let me just check here. Let me just check and see if we can stretch this TIFF. Yeah, okay, so you can do it. So now I've stretched the TIFF, and here's the most important thing you have to keep your eyes open for, and it's this along the tab here. See this nice line, nice green bar? It means that the image has not been stretched. It is still linear, and you can tell that by hitting this television within television red X. Reset it. This is the actual picture. This came off your camera, was stacked off your camera, and now the lines disappeared because this is linear. This is not stretched. We can stretch it by hitting the screen transfer function. This is what we would like to have, but we don't have this. This is coming in the future. And the green bar indicates that this is still not stretched, and we want to leave it not stretched, because you'd say, well, I want to stretch it now so I can show. Right, but in the next video we're going to go through dynamic background extraction instead of automatic, because I'm trying to keep it simple. Even in dynamic I'll try to keep it simple, but there's 2 or 3 other steps we need to do before we make this a reality, because right now it's just it's an illusion of what is possible, and we know that by resetting it, restretching it, unstretching it, restretching it. The green bar is an indication that right now we're stretched, and if I unstretch it, then it's linear. Nothing's done to it. That pretty well wraps up this particular video for cropping properly, getting rid of the excessive off-angle, offset frames from your stacking. And I showed you 3 simple, fun ways to crop your image, and you can drag that little square anywhere you want on the screen. The smaller you make this image, shouldn't say that, that's the wrong term. The more you crop it, the faster Pixinsight works. I'm just going to stretch it one more time. I'm going to lower this down here. Another thing that I do that some people don't do, this is an example. I would not do it on the TIFF, but I would do it on the original M31 we used a few minutes ago, the XISF. But here's what I do. Because my camera is 5,500 by 3,600 pixels, or 20 meg, it is a huge image. So I use the resample or resize it, and I go I know I cropped it, so it's already fairly small, but I might reduce this to 75%, 60%, and drag and drop my little triangle so that I can execute it. It'll make it tiny, but then I can just resize it back to the fit, and it looks like nothing changed. Well, something changed. It went from 140 meg to 70 meg, and now from 70 meg to maybe 30 or 40 or less. If I file, save as, and I just get rid of the TIFF for a second, and I underscore, go SM for smaller, and let's save it. And 16-bit, yada yada, nothing changed. I just changed the name of it, so save it. Sometimes this doesn't appear and you have to re-enter it. Let's go back to the folder of ctemp. Let's go back to SM, and we went from 140 meg to 70 meg to 25 meg. And boy, that's really going to help later when we're processing all the other modules, because it takes a long time when it's 140 meg. When I say a long time, sometimes 10 seconds in eternity, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes. All you're waiting for is to, you know, you're just doing a little bit of unsharp mask or HDR or local histogram, or maybe you're running the denoiser and there's like 10, 20, 30 ways to denoise an image, and there's like 4 modules, and I can't go through all of them. I'm going to use the one I use. And I use a whole bunch of other ones, but meh, this has to be simple for everyone. So SM, smaller, from 70 to 25 meg. And for all intents and purposes, this image doesn't even look like it's actually shrunk, but it has. It's been reduced or resampled, and the quality's still there. The eye will never detect that. So I think that's it. Sometimes I resample as soon as, let's close this for a second, and if it says no, go ahead and close it anyways. Let's bring back number 2, which is 70 meg, and we've already removed the green cast. Okay, so I'm going to stretch it again. This is 70 meg, and it's at this point, before I even go further, this is a TIFF, I'm sorry, let me just bring back the XISF, the big one. Voila, 140 meg. This file here, this image here, is huge. And at this point, I would go resample. What's 50% of 5,000 pixels? It's going to be about 2,500, which is still a big image. Don't enter the pixel size here. Just 50% crop. So if you hit enter, it will end up being 6 by 6 inches if you were printing, like, you know, 5.5 by 7, or 17 centimeters across. Select that, drag and drop. That should shrink it by 50%, or from 5,000 to 2,500. Of course, you can reset it. And there's our galaxy. So hopefully I didn't go too fast, but you can resample at 60%, 75%. I don't suggest 25, 30, 40, 50, 40, 45. It just ends up, then it ends up way too small. And then when you start pushing and pulling, it's going to hurt it. If you have a fast computer, don't bother. Don't resample. Leave it 100%. I can go here, I can undo that, and look how big it is. Youch. I mean, this thing's monstrous, right? It's a huge picture because it's such a big chip on my CCD, sorry, CMOS. So, voila. There we have it. We have learned how to crop, how to remove the green cast, save immediately, and we can get ready for part, might be 6. Seems like this is part 5. Sometimes I lose track of the videos. In the next part, we're going to look at the dynamic background extraction, which is almost the same, but way more control. I'll just double click it. Just open it up to scare you guys a little bit. Hopefully not. And you see there's a cross, and we're going to generate samples. We're going to change parameters of the model. For example, its weight, the tolerance of how hard we should hit it. And of course, we're going to go down here and we're going to do what? Remember what we did with correction? We subtract in this case. And we'll look at that on the next video. So close this. Yes, I want to cancel that. We saved our file. We're getting ready for the next part. So what can I say? Hey, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe down below. Hit the little bell so you can get lots of updates as they come along. I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed it. Certainly I did. Thanks for watching. See you guys later in the next part. Thank you very much.